What's your staying at a cheap hotel horror story? A friend and I were passing through St. Louis and needed a place to stay for the night, but all the hotels in St. Louis proper were either booked or super expensive. We found one in East St. Louis, not realizing it is the shadiest place on earth. Strip clubs on either side. Entire building smelled like burned rubber crack smoke. Tried to open the window to get some fresh air and the guy at the lobby started yelling at us to close it for some reason. Turned on the TV and it was just straight up porn on the first channel. Friend was reaching behind the bed to get to the outlet to charge his phone and ended up with a handful of cum rags. Then to top it off, when we checked out in the morning, the guy tried to say we owed him 10 for stealing the TV remote. Moral of the story: St. Louis and East St. Louis are very different places. Do not make the same mistake. I am a compulsive road tripper and I've stayed at a ton of cheap motels. By a wide margin, the most disgusting one I visited was a Motel 6 south of downtown Salt Lake City. It was clearly a meth hotel for prostitution. Out west this isn't that unusual for a Motel 6 in a city, but trust me when I say this was by far the worst. Our room smelled so bad of smoke that my skin felt like it was frying. It was a non-smoking room with ashtrays, cigarette holes burned into the bed sheets, poop and various body fluid stains on the bathroom ceiling, walls, and floor. A used needle was still in the trash can. No towels in the room. You had to request them from the front desk and they'd give you a once-over before clearing you as worthy of cotton. Pimps were out in the parking lot all night blasting music and fighting while showing girls to various rooms. The Yelp page for this place has a picture of the emergency response peeps taking care of a dead body. I know exactly the one you're talking about. I was also there back in March. I also travel full-time RV life and was up there with a friend for his daughter's birthday. I did a booking online for 8 days and a late check-in like at 7 p.m. 9 p.m. Got the confirmation email and another one saying our check-in time was good and someone in the office would be there to help us. We drove 12 hours that day from Palm Springs to SLC. About halfway there the highway was shut down because of snow and accidents, so I called the motel to let them know we would be late but still coming. The guy said it was okay and he put a note in the system, so we end up getting there around 11 p.m. Check in and pass out. Everything's good. Right. We wake up a little late, go grab some breakfast, and when we get back, the room's empty and our stuff is gone. Whoever was working yesterday canceled our reservation. Then the owner refused to rent to us because we were no-show. Went through our stuff saying we had no value. They were losers and have fun being stranded in SLC. Word of advice: to do not go to that Motel 6. I know it's not the best motel out there, but I usually use them because they're pet-friendly and cheap for long-term. But this one was hands down the worst Motel 6 I've ever stayed at. Where was your stuff? They had our stuff in the front office. We know for a fact they went through our stuff because a lot of my friend's stuff was packed in my bag. I didn't bring a lot of stuff in there to begin with, just shower stuff and sleepwear, so it was extremely obvious they opened my bag and threw my friend's stuff in it. We found the only room in town, but the service was lousy. Maids wouldn't enter the room and just left towels outside the door. Turns out that the last maid who entered the room was murdered there a week before we arrived. Stayed a cheap hotel in London. Donkeys back. Was traveling and met up with a couple of mates doing their own travels. The room was 2 single beds, and being the only guy, I volunteered to sleep on the floor between the beds. I was the only one to escape the worst case of bed bugs I've ever seen. I don't know how they weren't in the carpet as well. The girls were covered head to toe. Shit was nasty. Yo. It was 15. The floor was squishy. My pillow had small blood stains on it, and there were burn marks in the sheets. We told the main guy about it, and he said, "Well, you already paid, so tough luck." The handyman was nice and kinda told him off, saying we should at least get a room that doesn't have a wet carpet. But we ended up staying in that room due to the owner being stubborn. Really should have slept in the car that night. Was on a few-week-long college school trip in northern Florida a few years back. Stayed at a very shady roadway in where you had to ask for tolls at the front. The key cards weren't key to specific rooms, and there were several instances where other patrons walked in on a bunch of college students accidentally thinking it was their room. The worst part was at around 1-2 a.m. the people I was sharing the room with and I were awoken by a woman screaming bloody murder and pounding on the wall next door. She screamed, "Help, he's going to kill me, and please dear God help," before there was a wet squelching noise and she stopped. left. We immediately called 911 and their class instructors, who were quite horrified. We fled the room to one of theirs to wait it out. When the police got there, the room was empty except for apparently a lot of blood and drag marks to the door. They forced the entire class to get up and we immediately left and found a different hotel for the rest of the week. So needless to say, I've never willingly stayed in a roadway inn again. Edit: the police did take down our information but have yet to get back to us for follow-up statements. So at this time I believe it's still ongoing or unsolved. One had bed bugs, another smelled like cat piss. But the worst hotels I've ever stayed in have all been in the UK and they weren't exactly cheap. One in Belfast had a shower in the room, not separate but next to the bed. It was in the photos and we were like, emergency room, yeah okay, we'll still book it. But came to find the shower door didn't close properly. Puddle of water next to the bed. The towels had stains on them and were tiny and didn't really soak it up. Oh, and it was next to a ducking nightclub. Never again. The worst part was the staff were ducking polite as heck, so I felt really bad checking out 2 days early. UK hotels are so hit or miss. I stayed at a Best Western in some random country town that was independently operated and it was one of the nicest budget hotels I've ever seen. Custom carpets, bedding, etc. and a 90-year-old Scottish woman who served breakfast in courses every morning. Also stayed at an Ibis on Royal Mile and that place was a dump with zero amenities. Don't stay at a hotel that rents by the hour. In Argentina there are hotels by the hour commonly known as telo and are 100% used as couples hotels where you rent the room for an hour of intimacy with your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend hookup. Most of them are quite decent with fresh sheets, towels every time, and the most fancy one will even have thematic rooms. I've been to one that had a room set up like a concert stage, another one like a jungle, and another one like a dungeon. All of them with props like guitars and such. The lobby had dim black lights to make it more private in case there was more than one couple waiting, and in the fancy one you were able to do the check-in from your car through a drive-thru and drive straight to your bedroom with private parking so other people can't recognize your car. It used to cost around 10 per hour, the common ones, and the fancy one was around 40 per hour or 100 for 6 hours, all this some 20 years ago. Pull up and know it's going to be bad, but it's 11 p.m. We're on our way home from a whirlwind trip, 900 miles each way. We go in and the deluxe room is basically 2 rooms together. It makes no sense. Front room is 2 beds that look like they have been exactly the same since 1983. Back room is 1 bed, the TV, and the bathroom. There's wooden dowels in the windows for security. The scent of both rooms is reminiscent of a 1978 home of an elderly widower. Our dog was with us. She sniffed everything like crazy, then just stood in the room, wouldn't relax. I was pissed and the husband knew it but was trying his hardest to convince us we'd make it one night. I was determined to sleep in the wooden chair. He tried the bed, tried getting our dog to lay with him, and she refused. After about 30 minutes he jumped up, said I can't do this, and we left, ran out of gas halfway between there and our next destination. Waited 90 minutes in the middle of nowhere for AAA to bring us gas. Get to the next hotel about 2 a.m. and it's an amazing room for 20 less than the skeevy motel we abandoned. My mom was traveling for work and sat next to a fellow business traveler on the plane. They had a casual conversation and exchanged business cards. Later that evening she's in her hotel watching TV and gets a phone call from the front desk that her husband is here and they want to know if they can give him a key to the room. Turns out the creep on the plane was pretending to be her husband to try to get into her room. Well done front desk staff, calling her to confirm, not giving out room numbers and identifying if the person is actually staying there is like thing 2 they teach you when you work at a hotel. Also when you check in you can request to be checked in is not here, so if anyone is like, hey can I get transferred to OneMillionDandelions room, we just say no one's here by that name. Also a rule I should have followed more is we aren't supposed to say a room number out loud ever. Even when we just checked you in and give you keys it should be written down, so no creepy people can stalk you later. I always had a bad habit of just telling people the room number because they would just ask me anyways. Source: used to work at a big fancy hotel. I stayed Hilton's a lot for work and apparently a new policy is they don't ask for ID for diamond members when are issuing a key. I forgot my key, went down to get a new one made and noticed that she just asked for my last name and room number, then gave me a key. I didn't like this at all, especially as the desk was next to a bar and now a bunch of people have all the info they need to get a key to my room. I asked about this. She said it's a new policy so they don't bother the diamond members. I asked them to put a note on my room at least to request ID. She said they could not do that, which I know is bullshit. I am frequently late for check-in due to delayed flights and they can put notes for that shit. Even just a post-it note on the desk saying room X wants ID to make a key. So I asked for a manager look. If my safety is at risk, I'll call a manager. Duck it, and he tells me the same thing. They just refuse to make it hard to get a key to my room, or even put a note or anything. I barricaded that door with a desk and barely slept all night. I always use the second lock anyway, but now I am extra cautious at Hilton and will barricade my door with my luggage or the garbage can. Something that will fall over and make noise when someone comes in. Now that I haven't traveled for a year, I am considering just switching to Marriott or something. That policy is absolute horseshit. There was a massive mirror that stretched the full length of the wall where the bed was. I could swear it was a two-way mirror. There was a crew on site filming a horror movie. It had an indoor pool that had plants growing out of it, and you couldn't see through the water, like something was going to come out and drag you in. Our door wouldn't latch, so in the middle of the night when the AC kicked on, the door popped open just enough to hear the chain lock snap. We got a call at 2 a.m. from someone who kept asking how I was doing. His voice was very eerie and calm. He wouldn't change tone even after I was getting pissed, asking who is this. Later we thought it could have been a robocall, and it just got stuck in a loop on the initial question. We had gotten in late and thought no big deal for one night. We were supposed to be there 3 nights. That didn't happen. You can check for a two-way mirror by placing your hands around your eyes, almost as if you were pretending to hold up the pair of binoculars, pressing your hands against the suspected window and trying to see through. Turning off or covering up all light sources on your end will help as well. I am not sure how the science works, but if the light source on the other side is greater than the light source on your side, then the glass will stop reflecting and start showing. A while back I went on Google Maps and selected for literally the cheapest hostel in NYC. Cost $40 plus the ridiculous hotel tax they got up there. The problem was they didn't give you directions on where to go, and there wasn't any signage out front, and they never answered their phones. So I spent 2 hours convinced I was just scammed out of $40. I eventually found it after paying a homeless woman $10 to tell me where it was. She led me to a door. I walked in, and the sign on the wall inside the door, out of view of outside, said same name as hotel listing maternity ward, and there are people with full-on scrubs walking around a green hallway. There's a dude sitting behind a cheap IKEA desk. I only knew he was there to confirm reservations because the girl already there was having her card decline. He checks me in, takes a photo of me and checks my ID, and leads me deeper into the hospital-looking hallway. At this point I should have ran, and it's a miracle that I have all my kidneys and retinas. Anyway, dude hands me a key, tells me I am room 403, and leaves me at the elevator. At this point I'm hyper aware, and I am looking at the labels on the elevator, and one of them, no joke, says medical room. I actually get to floor 4, and honestly, past that point it was the best hostel I have ever stayed at. Super clean, noiseless, impressive for NYC, fresh sheets, nice shower with good water pressure, and best of all, it was so low traffic I had a 4-person hostel room all to myself. I ended up giving it a 5-star review on Google Maps. The dude at the counter even gave me great advice on where to eat. The next time I go to NYC, definitely going to that place again. It was right on Columbus Circle by Central Park, and the subway line right under it took me directly to everywhere I wanted to go. Stayed at a cheap holiday camp with my parents as a kid. The holiday itself was great because my parents made it fun. I remember the caravan being run down and the shower curtain being covered in at least 10 fat black spiders. A mama spider must have laid eggs in the bathroom, and all the siblings grew up and never left. Extended stay of Rollin near the mall. Dirty, not vacuumed or wiped down. The kitchen sink dripped the whole time. There were no towels or toilet paper. Had to buy my own after the front desk refused to hand any over. Microwave didn't have a plate inside. The sheets were stained yellow. Pictures had been ripped off the walls and left huge holes. The water was black when I turned it on. When I tried to change rooms, I was told there were no other rooms available, and being too broke to go somewhere else, I sulked back to the room only to be woken up by fighting and police outside, and a staff member knocking on the door a few days later asking how long I was staying. I have not received a response from corporate yet, but apparently they are closing this site down for lack of maintenance and basic human care. Thank God. Website was misleading. When I was 20, I went to Ireland with my sister and uncle. Most of the trip we stayed in nice places, but the first night in Dublin we stayed in a rundown place where our door has crowbar marks on it. That night around 1 a.m., someone tried climbing in our window. We were several floors up when confronted. The man apologized and said he thought it was his room. Was on a coach trip to Dublin many years ago with my mum. The hotel was alright apart from the fact that it had the Dublin area rapid transit train line running through it. Hotel was built underneath and along both sides sides of the railway bridge, but the area the hotel was in was run down, grey, dilapidated and had a slightly murdery vibe to it that even a 14-year-old me could feel. The kind of place where if you stopped for more than 30 seconds, you were getting mugged, stabbed and or shot at it. After digging on Google Maps, it was the North Star Hotel on Amiens Street, now known as the Address Connolly. That part of Dublin may have been gentrified since I was there, but I definitely remember it being the kind of area where we were advised not to venture out after 8 p.m. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.